Hello, my little and big dwarfs. It's nice to have you here. I'm happy and I hope you are doing well. Today is another beautiful summer day. The sun is shining, the trees are blooming, and our old rose bush is coming back to life. And do you know which fairy tale came to my mind right away? Sleeping Beauty. And that is exactly the story I want to tell you today. So come with me and listen closely. A long time ago, there lived a king and a queen. Every day they said, "Oh, if only we had a child." But they did not have one. One day, while the queen was taking a bath, a frog crawled out of the water onto the land. It said to her, "Your wish will come true. Before a year passes, you will bring a daughter into the world." What the frog said came true. The queen gave birth to a girl. She was so beautiful that the king was full of joy, and he planned a big party. He invited his family, friends, and also the wise women, so they would be kind and good to the child. There were 13 wise women in his kingdom, but because he only had 12 golden plates for them to eat from, one of them had to stay at home. The party was very beautiful. When it ended, the wise women gave the child magic gifts. One gave her goodness, another beauty, a third wealth, and everything else you could wish for in the world. When 11 of them had spoken their wishes, the 13th woman suddenly walked in. She wanted to take revenge because she was not invited. Without saying hello or looking at anyone, she cried out in a loud voice, "In her 15th year, the king's daughter shall break herself with a spindle and fall down dead." Without saying another word, she turned around and left the room. Everyone was shocked. Then the 12th wise woman stepped forward. She had not spoken her wish yet. She could not undo the evil course, but she could make it softer. So she said, "It shall not be death, but a deep sleep of 100 years, into which the king's daughter will fall." The king wanted to save his dear child from this bad luck. He ordered that all spindles in the whole kingdom must be burned. On the girl, all the gifts of the wise women came true. She was so beautiful, polite, kind, and smart that everyone who saw her loved her. On the day she turned 15 years old, the king and queen were not at home. The girl was left alone in the castle. She walked around everywhere, looking into rooms and chambers just as she liked. Finally, she came to an old tower. She climbed up the narrow stairs and reached a small door. A rusty key was in the lock. When she turned it, the door sprang open. There, in a small room, sat an old woman with a spindle spinning flax. "Good day, old mother," said the king's daughter. "What are you doing there?" "I am spinning," said the old woman, and nodded her head. "What is that thing that jumps around so happily?" asked the girl. She took the spindle and wanted to spin too. But as soon as she touched the spindle, the magic curse came true. She pricked her finger with it. At the next moment she fell down onto the bed that stood there and lay in a deep sleep. And this sleep spread over the whole castle. The king and queen, who had just come home and walked into the hall, fell asleep. The whole court fell asleep with them. The horses in the stable The dogs in the yard, the pigeons off the roof, and the flies on the wall all went to sleep. Even the fire on the stove became still and went to sleep. The meat stopped cooking. The cook, who was about to pull the kitchen boy's hair because he did something wrong, let him go and slept. The wind stopped blowing, and not a single leaf moved on the trees outside the castle. Around the castle, a hedge of thorns began to grow. Every year it grew higher until it covered the whole castle. In the end, nothing could be seen, not even the flag on the roof. But a story went around the land about the beautiful sleeping beauty, because that is what the king's daughter was called. From time to time, princes came and tried to get through the hedge into the castle, but it was impossible. The thorns held together tightly, as if they had hands. The young men got stuck, could not break free, and died a sad death. After many years, another prince came to the land. He heard an old man talking about the thorn hedge. The old man said there was a castle behind it, where a beautiful princess named Sleeping Beauty had been sleeping for 100 years, along with the king, the queen, and the whole court. He also knew from his grandfather that many princes had tried to get through the hedge, but they all got stuck and died. Then the young prince said, "I am not afraid. I want to go out and see the beautiful Sleeping Beauty." The good old man tried to stop him, but the prince did not listen. Now, the 100 years had just passed, and the day had become for Sleeping Beauty to wake up again. When the prince walked towards the hedge, there were only big, beautiful flowers. They opened up by themselves and let him pass without hurting him. Behind him they closed into a hedge again. In the castle yard, he saw the horses and the dogs lying and sleeping. On the roof, the pigeons sat with their heads under their wings. When he walked into the house, the flies were sleeping on the wall. The cook in the kitchen still held his hand out to grab the boy, and the maid sat in front of the black chicken that she was supposed to pluck. He walked on and saw the whole court sleeping in the hall. Up by the throne lay the king and the queen. He walked even further, and everything was so quiet that he could hear his own breath. Finally, he came to the tower and opened the door to the small room where Sleeping Beauty was sleeping. There she lay, and she was so beautiful that he could not look away. He bent down and gave her a kiss. As soon as he kissed her, Sleeping Beauty opened her eyes, woke up, and looked at him very kindly. They walked down together. The king woke up, the queen woke up, and the whole court woke up, looking at each other with big eyes. The horses in the yard stood up and shook themselves. The dogs jumped and wagged their tails. The pigeons on the roof took their heads out from under their wings, looked around, and flew into the fields. The flies on the wall crawled on. The fire in the kitchen rose up, flickered, and cooked the food. The meat started to cook again. The cook gave the boy a slap so that he cried, and the maid finished plucking the chicken. And then the wedding of the prince and Sleeping Beauty was celebrated with great joy. And they lived happily ever after. Before we say goodbye, here's the recipe for my little magic cake. Give it a try and write in the comments how you liked it. And with that, we leave the fairy tale kingdom for today. To all the little dwarfs who have to go to bed, sleep well and have sweet dreams. To everyone else, I wish you a magical time. I hope we will hear each other again for the next fairy tale. I look forward to seeing you. See you soon and stay magical.